What's up? Welcome back to the Metalhead Car Show. The 1990s were a wild time, also sort of an end of an era to wild concept cars. It's not like we didn't get any after that, but it was truly the pinnacle of concept cars that didn't quite make it to production. And that is what I want to look at. So today we're going to look at 6 1990s concept cars that unfortunately didn't make it to production. We're not going to dawdle, we're going to get right into it. Starting off with the 1999 Pontiac GTO. So in 1999, Pontiac revealed the GTO concept car at the Detroit Auto Show. And what they made was just truly striking. It was made to be a modernized version of a late 1960s GTO. Some people say 1967 GTO. Personally, I get 1969 vibes from it. And again, this thing was truly striking. It has such an aggressive look to it, and actually looks like more of a GTO than what we ended up getting in 2003. Not knocking at that car, it's super cool, but this is more of a GTO. Now, it's more likely the GTO didn't come out to production simply because GM was still making the Camaro and the Firebird, and the budget for one more muscle car may have just not been there. And with the 2003 GTO, it was going to be so much easier to slap a Pontiac badge on one of the Holdens than essentially design an all-new car. But this body should look a little bit familiar, because despite we didn't get the GTO, this looks extremely 2009 Camaro. Just look at the profiling and look at kind of where everything is. This screams Camaro. So despite we didn't get this super cool GTO, it still had a purpose in life. But honestly, just imagine this thing coming out. Like the Mustang 99, I love the new Edge, but the 99 Mustang isn't the hottest Mustang ever. And again, I like the Catfish Camaros, but it's really not an aggressive car. So imagine just seeing those two and also no Dodge Charger existing at all. And then this thing pulls up. Now, it likely wouldn't have had the 21-inch wheels like the concept car did, but this thing would have, again, been striking to look at. Super cool car. Next up, we have the Lamborghini Cala. Now, the Lamborghini Cala kind of has a neat history to it, because a lot of people kind of see it as the prototype car for the Lamborghini Gallardo that we got in 2003, but it was actually supposed to be the production-ready car for the Lamborghini P140. For those who don't know, the Lamborghini P140 was essentially the Lamborghini Yalpa replacement, but the difference between the Yalpa and the P140 is, A, the P140 looked like a baby Diablo, B, it had a V10. It was actually the first Lamborghini to use a V10 engine. Now, that being a Chrysler-era Lamborghini, the budget likely just wasn't there to release it, but Megatech picked Lamborghini up and they tried to get more cars out of it, one of them being the Cala. Now, Teledesign did also take part in the designing aspect of the Cala, and frankly made it 90s is all hell, but a bit more production ready than the P140 was. And the engine of this car is actually kind of cool. It was a 4-liter V10, which made 395 horsepower and looks extremely Audi. When they ended up using essentially this engine in the Gallardo, it was increased to 5 liters, it had a way more aggressive intake system to it, and it made 500 horsepower. But essentially, this is where that came from. Now, unfortunately, the Cala was actually done. It was drivable, it was good to go, but Megatech didn't actually have it in the budget to release another car to the public, which is why we didn't actually get a small baby entry-level Lambo until 2003. Although, would have been cool. Next up, we have the 1999 Mustang FR500. Now, the FR500 is kind of a neat car because its primary purpose was to display the FR500 racing division that Ford is working on. And despite at its core, what this thing was a modded 1999 SVT Cobra Mustang. This thing was a little bit more than just that. Now, despite that front end, it won't be for everyone. It does kind of take a nod back to the Fox body Mustangs. Same with the hood. But also you have the fake side vents removed, which probably would have made the car slightly more aerodynamic. You have wheels that are eventually used on FR500 Mustangs, but the roof is the big one I'm looking at. Because despite, yes, the C-pillar on these cars is completely removable. Like the GT and the Mach 1 actually have different C-pillars. This one was just a little bit different. I'm pretty sure that shape for the window is still used in the Mach 1, but the shape of the roof definitely looks a lot more fastback than what we got on any of the 4th gen Mustangs. Also, the rear bumper with those exhaust tips looks amazing. Why wasn't that used? I've always thought the front end of this car was a little bit on the ugly side, but overall this car definitely should have been made. Even if it was a short run, like 500 cars and away you go, this should have been made. I think it's a super cool and kind of wildly underrated Mustang. Next up, the weird car of the list, the Ford Windstar SHO. Now, the 1990s, Ford was making SHO or SVT versions of pretty much their entire lineup. And if it didn't have one of those badges, it more than likely had a Cosworth badge in Europe. But of all of them, the SHO Windstar is definitely the funniest. Now, it has more of an aggressive body, an aggressive front end with those hilarious headlights, but also it's like you would have found on one of the SVT cars, or SHO cars. Color matching everything, chrome taillights, and dual exhausts on your Windstar. But the kind of cool part of this van was actually the engine. Now, the engine was actually the same 220 horsepower, 3-liter 6-cylinder that came out of the SHO Taurus. Now, I'm not 100% sure why this thing was never actually released, but I naturally assume the market for high-performance minivans kind of didn't exist. Also, I just want to say, like, growing up, I was around Windstars and Freestars all the time, and I think at the end, they actually made as much power as this Taurus engine, which would have made this car completely obsolete. Nonetheless, it's a super wacky entry. Next up is the 1999 Dodge Charger RT. In the late 1990s, Dodge was actually planning on bringing back the Dodge Charger, giving it various resemblances to the 1969 Dodge Charger, giving it a V8, unlike the current car, and actually planning on putting it into NASCAR. Now, what they ended up getting was this kind of sleek and aggressive-looking sedan, which was, in my opinion, designed so well that you can barely tell it's a sedan. And some people don't like this. Some people just say it looks like an Intrepid. Some people just say it looks nothing special. But honestly, I think this thing looks super cool, especially comparing to like the 04, 05 Charger. I think this thing looks way better. Now, unfortunately, right after this, the Dodge Mercedes partnership started and they wanted to build the new Charger on a different platform, which ended up making this Charger scrapped. And the Charger we got in 04, 05 having pretty much zero resemblance to this car. Had a better engine, but was nothing like this. Before we get to the last car, I just want to know, do you prefer the 99 Charger or the 06 Charger? Let me know in the comments. And for the last car on the list, we go to the 1997 Volkswagen W12. Now, the Volkswagen W12, it's Volkswagen kind of showing the world they can make something truly super cool. Along with, it was a test development vehicle for the W12 engine. Now, in 1997, the Volkswagen W12 is using a 5.6-liter W12 making 414 horsepower, which through time development, that ended up being increased to a 6-liter W12 making nearly 600 horsepower, making a legitimate monster. And despite they actually made a Roadster and a Nardo version of this car, it was never actually planned to be released. Despite Volkswagen probably could have made this in really low numbers, probably made a little bit of a profit on it, it was only made to be a test development vehicle. So as unfortunate as it is that we never got this, we were never going to get this, it probably helped Bugatti get going with the Veyron. It probably helped Lamborghini with the late Diablos and probably early Murcielago. And of course, we ended up getting that W12 in the S8 Phaeton and various Bentleys. So we were never going to get it, but it didn't go to waste. So that is 6 1990s concept cars. I want to know, what do you think? As I said earlier, do you prefer the 1999 Charger or the 2006 Charger? Is there anything on this list, if you had to pick one, which one would you have wanted to see come into production? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, subscribe, enjoy what you've seen. I tend to post a couple times a week, and I'll see you later.